Rambling Man here. Okay, let's talk about some things that I want to get off my chest, because I'm telling you right now, I've been thinking about all that's going on with this voting bills that it's talking about voting restrictions in Texas. So if you know anything, I know I did a video about this, that the Democrats fled. The Democratic senators, they fled, right? And they went from the state of Texas. They spent $100,000, and they said this was the Democrats' caucus money. Well, where do you think they got that from? It's not like they just, $100,000 for a private jet, and had like 50, I think it turned out to be 58 senators now that went to D.C. Now, within that, though, not all of them went on that plane. Just a lot of them, they had Miller Lite, and they're just having a good old time on this little trip of theirs, right? Now, I know Governor Abbott has been putting out things about arresting them when they come back to the state of Texas, which I think they should be. That they're in a place in order to represent the people. But when you talk to any of them, I know there's one in particular that talks about his issues as far as he doesn't believe you should have to have an ID to do a mail-in ballot. You shouldn't have to prove who you are. That is the stupidest thing I've heard in my life. So, because we have so many illegal aliens here now. So if you had all these people from Mexico come across illegally, they're sitting there and they can just walk up, or they can mail in a ballot. Now, if someone has passed away and they haven't got the update yet, and they send a ballot to the house, anybody can fill it out, send it in the mail. It happens. It happens, people. So here's the thing. All these senators leave, right? Kamala Harris, she does a speech about these Democratic senators from Texas, and she aligns it with the whole, she puts it on there like it's one of the greatest things in history. She talks about Frederick Douglass, going to bat to push for blacks to be able to vote. Then talks about the women's suffrage, when they went to vote, and they said this is just another step in making sure that there's no one keeping them from being able to vote. This is the stupidest thing ever. And then if you look on there, and she's got a lot of backlash for comparing it to that, because that's nothing near. It's like when Biden says that this is the worst thing since the Civil War, all this crazy. Guys, I'm telling you right now, there is a uprising that is in the works, because there's no way people are going to sit by and take all this crap. We have the worst president, worst vice president in the history of the United States. If you don't think that's true, what have they done? Biden doesn't even know what he's done, because he just signs whatever they tell him to do. Nancy Pelosi is the crypt keeper, and she keeps doing bull crap all the time. This is what I'm talking about. We have our school children. Let's talk about our children. They're pushing agendas there. If you think back to when we were kids, think about this. We already had things as we were growing up where they're talking about, they were just getting on the tips of it when I was in high school, when they're talking about like teaching, sex ed in school. And prior to that, it really wasn't, you had health class and things, but everything was taught. Like, we had history. I knew about the Indians and the Trail of Tears and everything, all the wrongs that we as a nation did, and you felt that. You felt like, I would never want to do that. Why would I do that? You felt the things when they talk about slavery and slaves being beat. What you weren't taught, though, is how many slaves were owned by black individuals, and how many people actually own slaves. Only 6% of the whole population of the U.S. own slaves. So it's kind of like, a few bad seeds. That's what we're getting killed for here, crucified for, is 6% of the population. So only 6 out of every 100 people own slaves. But for those 6, the other 94 of us have to suffer, because they're talking about reparations and things. Reparations for what? Because here's the thing. Who do you pay these reparations to? No one alive right now has been affected by slavery, other than the fact that what's in your own mind. Slavery, there are more slaves in the world right now than there ever have been in the history of the world. Like, we act like we're the only country that ever had slavery. We are actually one of the only countries that went to war to end slavery. And so, with that, I mean, people don't take any of that into consideration. We live in the best country in the world. But fast, we are falling. It's not if our government falls, if our country falls. We are falling right now. At some point, we have to take a stand and decide, you know what? The public school system needs to teach school, not a government agenda, not something that the government deems good, not something that the government says, hey, we're gonna take, God out of the schools, but we'll allow a Muslim meeting on at the school. There's all kinds of different things you read about these things. It's not that all religions being removed from school. No, it's that God, Christianity, Judeo-Christian, okay? It just fires me up. God's being removed from the school, but not all religion. Put it that way. You can have your thoughts. You can't carry a Bible, but you can carry anything else you want with you. You can wear a shirt that says FU or F12, meaning the law enforcement. You can do any of that stuff, but you cannot have God is great, God is good, I stand for Jesus, any of that stuff, because you may get called on, depending on what state you live in, to go home and change because you're not allowed to have that in school. What's happened is they have demoralized our country. If it were up to me, I'd say pull all children out of public schools and either homeschool and that's homeschool is one of the biggest threats to public education because there's so many people doing it now, and the U.S. is paying people to keep them in school. We're not putting smart people out. We're not putting smart people out of school. All we're doing right now is, you had all the way up. If you look at, watch those movies, those shows I talked about, Agenda and Agenda 2. I'm telling you, it talks about all the different things. The last one was George W. Bush just changed the name of it to No Child Left Behind. Well, what we've done is we don't leave a child behind. We just push them through. And we're doing these stupid tests that were called TOS when I was a kid, and then now they're called the STAR testing. It's just one thing after another that we have to do in order to pass the kids, but we're not going to, it's just a basic standardized test. It's not teaching anybody anything. The only thing our kids are learning is what they learn on social media. If you don't think our kids are smart enough to learn, watch what they learn from social media. They can tell you all kinds of crazy things. And it talks about in these shows where it starts with our children, where they're demoralizing, and then we make just the regular, it's okay for everyone to be gay. It's all, we've taken God out of this country, and by doing so, we are falling. We have to get God back in right now. And I'm telling you right now, I'm tired of the left saying all this bull crap. I'm tired of people like Kamala Harris telling them that, like, this movement with the Democrats leaving Texas. Well, let me just rain on your parade a little bit, Kamala. Guess what? They voted anyway because they met quorum. And so Senate Bill 1 passed 18-4. And if they don't return within 30 days and do the vote on this stuff, it'll pass anyway. So you know what? Failure on the Democratic side. Failure. I'm fed up, though. My wife and I sat here and we talked about, it's time for us to take a stand, get closer to God, spend more time with God, because the closer we are with Him, the more we're going to be aligned with what needs to happen. Because we're not at a point of no return right now, but we're getting close. At some point, there'll be no saving America. America's still free, but at some point, you have to make a stand and decide, hey, you know what? My country is worth it, and I'll do what it takes to keep it that way. Hope I didn't rant too much on you guys, but I'm just telling you, I love America. I love you guys. Y'all have a great evening. Ramblin' Man out.